booktube. Hello friends, welcome to Lizziefaye Loves Books. I'm Elizabeth. Today as I'm filming this, it is Thursday, August the 3rd, 2023. It is late morning, it's like 11ish right now, and at 1 p.m. today there is a library book sale in the next county over that I am going to. I'm super excited about it. It is one of my favorites in my area. Fill a bag for $3. So I don't want to be late for that, but I think I have enough time to at least share with you what I read in the month of July, and then who knows how long it'll take me to get this edited, but I'm going to try to not ramble on too much and just share with you what I was able to accomplish and a few of my thoughts about some of the books that I read. So just to give you a quick breakdown of my statistics, I finished a total of 26 books. 8 of them were print books and 18 of them were audiobooks. 2 of them were books I had started several months ago, hadn't picked them up in quite a while, and mainly because of just other readathons and things. And I was able to finish 2 of the books that had been languishing on my currently reading list for most of the year. And another one that has been there probably since January, I have made significant progress on and plan to finish in the month of August. So really excited about that. To break it down into genres, I read 4 nonfiction books, 12 mysteries, and of the 12, 9 are what I would consider cozy mysteries. I read 4 fantasy books, 3 romance books, 1 Newbery winner. That was the only middle grade or children's book that I finished, and 2 historical fiction. One of them was written historically contemporary for its time, but as of right now, I would still kind of classify it as historical fiction. And so then from those 26 books, 4 of those were books I read for a library book club. I have 2 regular library book clubs, and then we always do a special book club in the summer that meets at a different day and time. We do some different activities, and this year we read 2 books for that, and one of them I read last month, and then 1 in July. So I'll tell you about that in a little while. Sadly, I did not enjoy the book for that book club for July, but anyway, it is what it is, as they say. All right, so let me get some of the smaller categories out of the way first, and then we will jump into some of the bigger readathons and things like that. So I've been reading Newbery winners, and I did read 1 Newbery winner right at the end of the month. Very short, less than 100 pages, The White Stag by Kate Sarity. This is one of the Newbery winners of the 1930s, and I'll talk more about it whenever I do my Newbery video for the 1930s. Another read-along that I've been doing this year is the Follow Us to Fair Acre read-along that is hosted by Kate Howe. And this is the book I was talking about that is historical, but when it was written, it was contemporary for its time. We read Summer at Fair Acre by Miss Reed. This is book 15 or 16, I believe, in the Fair Acre series. And I really enjoyed it, but the one I'm reading right now for August, I am adoring. So I can't wait to tell you about it. And I'm really looking forward to our live discussion that we will do for that book sometime. I think we're going to do it probably around the 3rd Friday of August on Kate House channel. So whether you've read any Fair Acre books or misread books at all, you could still come on and watch the discussion, and I think you will be entertained by just the fun discussions that we have regarding these books. All right, so then another reading challenge or read along I have been doing is for the Cozy Mystery series, The Southern Sewing Circle Mysteries by Elizabeth Lynn Casey. And for July, we read Let It Sew, which is appropriate since it's set at Christmas. So kind of that whole Christmas in July theme going. It's book 7. We're reading 1 a month. And I enjoyed it a lot. It had a couple of different storylines that I thought were particularly entertaining. I wasn't completely satisfied with the outcome of one of the storylines, but this particular character might pop up again, and that would be interesting if that happens. So yeah, and we discuss these live on Tiffany's channel, The Beach Bum Bookworm. We also have a discussion thread in Melmac's Melmax Buddy Reads Discord group, which is sort of a spin-off Discord group of the Killing Time with Cozies group. I think I have it linked in my description, although I don't have a way of putting a never expiring link for that in my videos. So if I put one in this video, it'll be a new one, which will only last, I think, 30 days. So if you're hearing this video after it's 30 days old, then if you want to join that group, you'll need to go to a newer video, and hopefully it will be there. If it's not, just message me and I'll send you a new link for that Discord group. All right, then for the Jen McKinley read-along, which we call the Triple Top Treat read-along, I managed to get through 4 books this month, in the month of July, because this is a read-along that we're reading 2 books per month on. And I got seriously behind in March and April, and because I got to a month that had 2 books that I could get on audio, I was able to read 1 in print and 3 on audio, and I am gradually getting caught up. I think by the end of August or the beginning of September, I will be completely caught up with where I need to be, caught up with the schedule. I don't know that anyone else is caught up with the schedule. I think there are a few people that might be, but I want to be on track with the schedule. Now, I'm not caught up with commenting about the books, but I am getting caught up with reading. So anyway, I ended up reading in print one of the Library Lovers mysteries, Read It and Weep. I think this is book 4 in the series. And I'm not showing them to you in the order that I read them. I believe the first one I read at the beginning of the month was Cloche and Dagger, and this is book 1 in the Hat Shop Mysteries. Then I read Read It and Weep in print, and then I came back and I read these 2, and I don't remember which one I read first. Death of a Mad Hatter is book 2 in the Hat Shop Mysteries, and Sugar and Iced is book 5 or 6 in the Cupcake Bakery Mysteries. So we're reading all 3 of these series in publication order, and eventually at some point I believe there are going to be some characters that overlap. At least that's what I've been told. So that's why we thought it would be fun to read them all in publication order, just to get the full appreciation of all of the characters and all of the events and everything like that. All right, so getting into the readathons that I participated in the month of July, the Janelle-a-thon, which was to honor our friend Janelle from Too Fond of Books, who passed away several weeks ago. This readathon started the last few days of June and carried over into the first few days of July. I counted the misread book that I read at the end of June for the Janelle-a-thon, as well as The Murder of Roger Ackroyd, which apparently was Janelle's favorite Agatha Christie book. And it is not my favorite, but I can see why people would be entertained by it and would enjoy it. I am still really a fairly new reader of Agatha Christie. I've read a few, and I am not in love with her books yet. The one I'm most blown away by is And Then There Were None, but I'm going to still continue to read 1 or 2 here and there as I have time, and maybe I will catch the bug at some point. But anyway, this was a reread for me, and I just wanted to just refresh myself, and I wanted to read it in honor of Janelle, and I'm glad that I did. Another readathon that I participated in July was the Retro Romance Readathon, and that was hosted by Storm from Storm Reads and Sarah, the Bookish Knitter, and their theme was Christmas in July, but I ended up first finishing a retro romance series by Debbie Maycumber that is a 6-book series, and I had read the first 4 or listened to the first 4 back in February for the full month of Retro Romance Readathon. For July, they had basically a week, I think it was 8 days of the readathon, but encouraged you to read retro romances all month if you wanted to. So I read or listened to the last 2 books in the Navy series by Debbie Macomber. I listened to Navy Baby, and then I also listened to Navy Husband. And I can't remember now which one was book 5 and which one was book 6. But anyway, I will put what number this one is, and then you'll know that the other one was the other number. I don't have a physical copy of Navy Husband, and I actually don't have a physical copy of Navy Baby, but I picked this one up from the library. Then, right at the end of the month, I wanted to get in at least one Christmas-themed romance book. I've got a bind up of 2 books that this is in, and I've got a box set of CDs of the first 3 books, but I'm just going to show you a picture here of the first book in the Angelic Intervention series called A Season of Angels. I listened to this on audio just over the last couple of days of the month, and it was really cute. And it had 3 different storylines. One was a couple who were already married who wanted to have a child. Another was a woman who had never been in a relationship, and I can't remember now what the third storyline was, but each of the angels, Shirley, Goodness, and Mercy, had a person that they were supposed to help. So you got the 3 different storylines, and I don't think they really connected. I always kind of think it's neat when you have 3 storylines and there's a connection between the 3, but I guess in this case the connection was the angels themselves. Anyway, there's several books that are about Shirley, Goodness, and Mercy, so I'm looking forward to reading some of those. I have read a couple of her other Angelic Intervention books, like the Mrs. Miracle books, but I had not read any Shirley, Goodness, and Mercy. So I thought that would be fun to listen to those, and I'm glad I got the first one done. I did also listen to a nonfiction book by Debbie Macomber, and I might as well go ahead and show you that one now. It was an abridged version of Knit Together. It's a spiritual inspirational book, and the subtitle is Discover God's Pattern for Your Life. And I am counting that for one of the prompts for the summer clearance readathon, which I'll talk about a little more in a minute. But interestingly enough, last month, in the month of June, I had several groups of books in 3s. And for July, I had a few groups of books in 4s. So I listened to 4 books by Debbie Macomber. I also had 4 books by Jen McKinley. I had 4 books by another author, which I'll tell you about in a minute. I had 4 book club books that I read. So it's kind of funny how just different patterns emerge that, you don't really plan. It just happens. And I had 4 nonfiction books too. Okay, so then for the Mandy-a-thon, that was hosted and created by Mandy Garrett, the Night Owl, and I was low-key her co-host, and I participated. So her prompts, there were 5, and they are based on the letters in her name, M-A-N-D-E. So I did not finish D, which was indie, and the prompt there was to read a book by an indie author. I did have one picked out, and I think I showed it in my TBR. It was a book, a Western, written by the older brother of one of my high school classmates, and he dedicated it to my dad, who was one of his teachers. I've got it pulled out. It's on my cart. I just wasn't able to get to it, and at some point, I definitely want to read it. I also have 2 other books by him, and whenever I do get any or all of them read, I will be sure to tell you about them. But for the first 3 prompts, M, A, and N, for M, I read A Medal for Murder by Frances Brody. This is book 2 in the Kate Shackleton Mysteries. And I also counted this as my M book in the ABC Challenge that I am participating in with the Killing Time with Cozy's group. Most people who participated did the whole ABC last year in any order, and I started out last year saying, I'm going to do them in order. Well, I only got not even half done. So I am still just continuing that project. I carried it over into this year. Just now got to M. I didn't even get to N yet. I'm going to try to get that one done in August. So I'm just enjoying going through, because it is prompting me to not just read something fast, but to pick up books that I have been intending to read for a while, and this was one of them. So this is a historical mystery set, I believe, a little after World War I, because our main character has lost her husband. He was missing in action in World War One, and I'm wondering if he's not going to pop up at some point. But as of right now, in fact, in this book, she has sort of started getting out and dating again, and so it makes me a little worried that her husband is going to pop back up, but we shall see what happens. Anyway, in this book, she is a photographer and also has become a licensed private detective. And it's not my all-time favorite series, but it's interesting enough to continue. So I will plan on continuing the series. For the A prompt, I don't have a physical copy of this book, but the prompt was to either read a book with a red cover or an apple on the cover. So I listened to a book I found on Hoopla. It's book one in a series. I'm going to put the name of the series here because I can't remember. The name of the book is Apple Die, and it was very good. I enjoyed it. It was not long, and there are more books in the series that are on Hoopla, so I probably will continue the series, and I'll tell you more about it as I continue to listen to more of those books. But I didn't continue with that series yet because I was super excited to get to the end prompt. N is for nocturnal, and she said you could either read a book at night or you could read a fantasy book. Well, I didn't just stop at one fantasy book. I listened to 4 of them. I listened to the entire Rainwild's Chronicles by Robin Hobb. This is the 4th series in the world or realm of the Elderlings. I very much enjoyed them. I didn't know if I would go ahead and listen to all 4 of them or not, but book 1 ended on such a cliffhanger. This is called Dragon Keeper, that I had to jump right into book 2, which is Dragon Haven. At that point, once I got started and saw where the cliffhanger from book 1 was leading, I did manage to pry myself away from it for a day or two while I listened to 2 of the Debbie Makeover books, because I wanted to actually read 1 or 2 of these books during the actual readathon dates. And then once I finished those, I jumped right back in and finished Dragon Haven. Then I went right into book 3, City of Dragons, and I thought, well, I may as well just finish out the series with Blood of Dragons. This was so good. I really, really enjoyed these books. And I made the statement on a live stream the other day that I think that once I finish all of this series and everything by Robin Hobb, this whole realm of the Elderlings is a group of books that I definitely want to reread, especially now that I am starting to see how things are all tying together. I mean, each series could be read as a standalone series, but there are ties between them, and I think then this 5th series after this one will bring everything together, because this series is more of a sequel series to the Live Ship trilogy, which is the 2nd trilogy. And the Tawny Man trilogy is more of a sequel to the 1st trilogy. But I think probably series 5 is going to just blow us all away and tie everything together. I don't know. I don't think I own all of those books yet. I think I just have 1 or 2 of that last trilogy, but I'm listening to them on audio. At least I hope that the last series is on audio. But I think when I reread, I will probably want to read in print. I don't know. We shall see. That'll be somewhere down the road. Then, like I said, I didn't get D. D was for indie, and I did not get that one done. And then E was for everything, or, read anything. And so I can count any of these for that prompt, and I didn't pick out one specific book for the E prompt. And then the big readathon that I'm participating in and low-key co-hosting for the summer is hosted by Donna from Studio in the Library on her Goodreads group, Reading Goalposts, and I will leave a link for it below. But the summer clearance readathon has 9 prompts. The first 3, and it goes the entire summer, from the first day of summer to the last day of summer, or really the first day of fall, I think. And the first 3 prompts are fiction prompts, the second 3 are nonfiction, and then the 3 bonus prompts can be either. Now, I've already picked out a couple of those that I don't think I'm going to do. If I end up doing them, it'll sort of be by accident. But I did go ahead and accomplish a couple of them, and one or two I've made progress on. And so let me share those with you. Now, I had said when I was talking about this earlier that even though her main idea for the summer clearance readathon was to clear things off of your TBR, I mostly needed to clear some things off my currently reading list. And so I was interpreting summer clearance to clear some things off my currently reading. And I had 3 that had been hanging on all year, really on purpose, because the 2 I finished this month, I started for the Little House Readathon, and I said that I was going to work on them in February, and then I was going to put them aside until June. Well, in June, I didn't end up getting either of them done, and so I picked up one of them at the beginning of July, and I finished it, and then I picked up the other one at mid-July, and I finished it. So now they are both done. So they are both Laura Ingalls Wilder related. This one specifically is called I Remember Laura. It's compiled by Stephen W. Hines, America's favorite storyteller as remembered by her family, friends, and neighbors. Very enjoyable. My mom gave me this book years ago, and I read most of it, some of it, all of it. I'm not even sure, but I have now read it from cover to cover. Very, very enjoyable. And then I also read this first memoir from Melissa Gilbert called Prairie Tale, where she talks about her young life working on Little House on the Prairie, also her young adult life and her different projects, also her dating relationships and things like that. And I had some mixed feelings about it. Then I read some reviews, and there are some mixed reviews, but I read one review that talked about the really admirable things about this book and her life and her courage, and then also just the courage to talk about the things that she did that even at the time she kind of knew were not good choices. I'm really curious to go on now and read her more recent memoir. And anyway, I did enjoy this. There was a lot of different mentions of different celebrities and people in her life. And of course, I had to Google most of them and just, see who they were and everything. Her and I are just about the same age. And boy, have we led completely different lives. I mean, for sure. But still, I'm so glad that I read it. And I am looking forward to going on now and reading her more recent book as well. So I'm counting both of those books for the second nonfiction prompt, which was Discover, where she wanted you to pick at least one book about a subject or a person that has always interested you and you want to learn more about. So definitely both of those books can count for that. And through the process of reading those, not only a celebrity memoir, but an author biography, and also purchasing a few biography books at a recent book sale, it made me want to just explore the memoir and biography that I have on my shelf. So I did a whole video about that. And if you haven't seen it, I hope that you will. If you did see it, I want to thank you for indulging me in my own trip down memory lane and just talking a little bit about some of my own experiences with some of the celebrities that I have purchased memoirs of and that I've read memoirs of. And so thank you for that. I hope you found that enjoyable, and by no means am I bragging about any of it, but just sometimes I sit and I think, wow, I got to do some really amazing things in my life. And, sometimes it's fun to just chat about it with friends, and I consider you friends. So thank you for indulging me in that trip down memory lane as I talked about all the biography and memoir books that are on my shelves and that I have read and want to read. So then back to the prompts for the summer clearance readathon. So the first prompt was reacquaintances, and that is one of the fiction prompts, and she wanted you to pick up another book in a series. Maybe you've read the first book and you want to pick up book 2. Well, I don't know if I read book 2 in any series. Actually, I did. A Medal for Murder is book 2 in a series, but the one I really wanted to count for this, because this didn't count for anything else other than just I wanted to pick up the next one in the series, is Tripwire by Lee Child. This is book 3 in the Jack Reacher series. I listened to this early in the month, and I had wanted to pick up book 4 throughout the rest of the month, and I never got to it. Finally, now at the beginning of August, I have started listening to book 4. But I am hooked on that series now, and I have not still yet watched any of the Tom Cruise movies, but I did watch a few episodes of the Reacher series on Prime Video, and let me tell you, it's pretty graphic. But at least the actor who plays Reacher physically is a lot more like he's described in the books. But I'm still looking forward to getting to the Tom Cruise movies at some point. But anyway, as of right now, I'm hooked on the books, and I will continue reading the series by Lee Child. So I haven't done prompts 2 and 3 yet, but prompt 4 is called Play. And she wanted you to find a book about something creative and read a book about that, and then also perhaps participate in that activity. So I had been wanting to get back into a knitting project that I had started for my daughter barely, and I still didn't even do that until last night. Finally, I picked up this knitting project and I knitted a couple of rows, partly because I had lost the pattern. Finally, I went and found it online because I still can't find the paper pattern. But this is not really a knitting book, but the reason I found it and picked it up was because of that prompt. So I'm still going to count it for the prompt, although this book is not really about knitting. Debbie Maycomber does have some fiction books that, center around a yarn shop, and she knits, I believe, herself. And so this book, Knit Together, Discover God's Pattern for Your Life, was really more about just finding your place in the world and just inspiration for daily living, that kind of thing. It is a faith-based book, and I listened to an abridged version on audio, I think I mentioned earlier, and at some point I would like to go ahead and read the entire book. But I'm going to count this book for that challenge because just the prompt in general did inspire me to not only pick up this book, but to pick up the knitting project. So I will hopefully continue on with that, and maybe you'll see me knitting in a future Killing Time with Cozy's live streams and reading sprints. So I definitely want to continue that project. The project is a blanket or afghan that I want to knit for my daughter. She had wanted to learn to knit and do it herself, and then quickly realized that knitting a project like that would probably take a little bit more knitting experience. And I am even finding that the pattern, which is labeled intermediate, is challenging for me. And I've been knitting a long time, but I have not really knitted anything new. I have just knitted things from old patterns, things like that. I learned to knit when I was about 6, and knitting has changed, and abbreviations have changed a little bit over the years. So it's going to be a fun experience to actually knit a new pattern and learn some new things about knitting. So that in itself is exciting, and I think that was one of the things Donna hoped to accomplish with this prompt. And then the only other prompt that I have worked on was the first bonus prompt, which was to pick the largest book on your TBR and start it at the beginning of the summer and work to try to finish it by the end of the summer. Well, rather than start a whole new book, I was already, I think, about a third of the way done with Ken Follett's World Without End, which is book 2 in the Kingsbridge Chronicles. And it is just over 1,000 pages, I think 1,014 pages. And at the beginning of the summer, I think I had 694 pages left. Well, now I am on page 723. I have read some every day in this book except for the very first day of summer. I missed that day and I doubled up the next day. After that, I have read almost every day. I've read a chapter a day. There have been a couple of days when I only had time to read a page or two, but I'm very much enjoying it. I am on track to finish it by the end of August. I have under 30 chapters left, and it might only take me half of this month to finish it because, when you get to the end, nearing the end of a really good book, you just want to plow on through because things are getting intense and you just want to read it. So I'm very much enjoying it. It is not quite as barbaric as Pillars of the Earth, and I feel like the villains in this book are not quite as horrific as the villain in Pillars of the Earth, but still, it's an epic book, and I highly recommend it. But definitely start with Pillars of the Earth before you pick this one up. I'm excited to go on, hopefully next year, and read book 3, and then the year after that, I will probably read the prequel. I doubt I would try to pick them up both in one year, but I don't know. We shall see. So that's all I've done on the summer clearance readathon so far, but we have the entire summer and most of September to do those prompts. So thank you, Donna, again, for coming up with those prompts. She has talked about possibly doing a seasonal readathon for each season. So don't be surprised if I come back with a fall announcement for some more interesting prompts for the fall. I did forget to mention one other Killing Time with Cozy's read-along that just started in the month of July, and that is a read-along of The Christmas Tree Farm Mysteries by Jacqueline Frost, aka Julianne Lindsay. And I had already listened to the first 3 of these, but I thought it would be fun to go back and listen to them again. And then there is a brand new one that is coming out in October, and we are going to include that one in our read along because our fearless leader Tiffany, who is the Beachbound Bookworm, is a character in the book. So we are all very much excited to read that. Some people who are able to get an ARC edition of the book have already read it, but I am waiting until it comes out, and I'm excited to read it. So I thought it would be fun to go ahead and reread these with the group. Tiffany did do a live stream discussion with Julianne Lindsay of this book at the end of July, and then I'm not sure if she's going to do a live stream discussion of the next 2, but then there will be another one at the end of the 4th book after we've all had a chance to read that one. And then Julianne herself has a Facebook group. I think they're called the Cozy Queens, and they are doing a read-along of the series as well and discussing them all in her Facebook group as well. I just put in my want to join when it was a little bit too late to participate in the discussion for this book, but hopefully I can get in on the rest of the discussions, and I think that's going to be a lot of fun. And then I think the only thing I have left now to share with you is what I read for my library book clubs. So let me start with the one I didn't love first, since I've already mentioned it. For the special summer book club, the second book that we read was Eat, Pray, Love by Elizabeth Gilbert. It wasn't our first choice. They were trying to get enough copies of Lessons in Chemistry to read, but honestly, I was not really interested in reading that one either. I did listen to this one on audio. When we came back for our book club discussion, I was running late. Emily had some issues, and we got there late, so I missed the discussion of the book, but we did watch the movie. I will have to say, the movie is better than the book, in my opinion. So that's all I'll say about that. I did not enjoy the book, but the movie was better. So then for my regular literati book club, we read The War Librarian by Addison Armstrong. We have this was our book for July, so we've already had our discussion about this one. This had 2 timelines. One was set in World War I think 1918, and the other was set in 1976. I think I shared a little bit more about this as I was reading it, and I thought it was really good. There were a few things about it that I didn't really think about until we discussed the book, and I was like, oh, because I rated it 5 stars, and that was my emotional response to it. But then some of the other book club members brought up a few things, and I was like, yeah, I guess that kind of made it less than perfect, but still, I enjoyed the book, and I would recommend it. Just know there might be a couple of issues you might find problematic or predictable, but still, I thought it was very good. And then for our mystery book club, I read ahead. I've read both of the books for my mystery book club for August and September. So for August, we are reading A Flicker in the Dark by Stacey Willingham. And I thought this was pretty good. It was enjoyable. It was a little bit predictable. I actually kind of guessed how it was going to play out early on, but then the author did have quite a few red herrings and things that sort of would lead the reader to believe other things, but still the prediction that I had from the very beginning turned out to be true. So I was kind of proud of myself for that. But very enjoyable. It was a bit of a thriller, and I think it's going to make for interesting book club discussion. And then one of the books I enjoyed most of all this month is our book club book for September. And I'm so glad that I have read this. It's The Thursday Murder Club by Richard Osman. This is a book about 4 senior citizens living in a senior citizen community, and they are awesome. Now, I will say that the very end was a little bit of a letdown, but the enjoyment is just from reading the book from page to page. I did not listen to this on audio. I read it in print. There's a lot of characters, so if you have a hard time keeping up with various characters, you might want to take notes. I probably should have taken notes since this is a book club book, but it was very enjoyable. I thought it was hilarious at times. It was clever at times. It was just a really good overall reading experience, and I would recommend it. So that is what I read in the month of July. Have you read any of these books? I would be interested to know in the comments if you have read any of these and what you thought about them, or if any of these are on your TBR and you are planning to read them soon. Let me know. That is it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. I've got a book sale to get to, so that means a book haul coming up hopefully pretty soon. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you're having a great day. Read a good book, and God bless you.